Summertime. I love summer. I'm in my classroom. No one else is here. I signed up to teach summer school. Wait a minute. If you're new here, my name is Heidi. I'm a third grade teacher in Northern California. And I am going to be doing a video today on what to buy and what not to buy when you're starting a classroom, when you're setting up, when you're starting up, because it's so exciting. You got that first job? Yes. It might not be at your chosen grade level, right? Hopefully it's primary or intermediate, whichever you feel like that's your jam. You'd be surprised on that. I've taught every grade level but first and second in my career, which has been a long time. But let's just leave that over here for a little bit. So thinking about that, you want to go out and you want to get stuff, right? You want to gather your materials because this is going to be the best year, don't you know? Because you got this, because you're excited, because those kids are going to be so fortunate to have you as their teacher, right? I mean, come on, let's be honest. So what's better than that, right? What's better than a teacher who wants to be there? Well, maybe a teacher who's prepared. So there's certain things you can't prepare for. You can have the best lessons planned, you can have the nicest materials, you can have the best classroom, pretty-ish, right? But the wrong kids show up. So you can plan for certain things, right? But you can't plan to have perfect students because they're not perfect. They're perfectly imperfect, which is why we love teaching, right? You're right, kids will show up. They're meant to be there in your classroom. So I hope that didn't come off the wrong way. So if I were a new teacher, I would make myself a list. If I were a new teacher and I was thinking about all the money I've spent wasting it on stuff at the dollar store. I did. I've done that. It falls apart after you use it once because it's $1. That shouldn't surprise anyone. Dollar store is really great for lessons that are particular about something. They're good for science things that are things you'll use and throw away. They're good for containers for crayons and things like that. So make good friends with the dollar store because you'll be going there a lot. But not buying things that are permanent in your classroom that you're going to want to keep around for a long time. I hope that makes sense. Here's where I'd start if I were a new teacher. You know what I'm going to say, right? Target. Make friends with Target. A lot of materials I buy in my classroom come from Target. A lot of things that are permanent, though, that I use long-term actually did come from Target, but I'm going to go through my list here of things. First of all, do not go to the store and buy anything until you've seen your classroom, if you can help it. If you don't know where you're teaching it, that's a different story. But I'm going to tell you that sometimes a classroom will already have some things in it that you won't need to rebuy. Unfortunately, there's a lot of teachers out there who retire and think they're doing you a wonderful favor by leaving you a classroom full of crap. And if that happens, you find your grade level partner or partners or someone at the school to help you haul it all out of there. Here's a clue. If you go in a classroom and there's more than one file cabinet, run. Because that teacher was teaching too long. I have one, and I'm still working on getting rid of that one. I've been teaching for 27 years. This will be my 28th year. And I think that because I'm a progressive human being, I've noticed that in my profession, and I don't want to ever feel like I've been sitting back doing last year's lesson plans. Don't get into that rut. So I'm going to try to save you from that. So don't buy anything big until you see your classroom. Now, let's say you don't have your job yet. That's a bummer, but you're excited. You're going to get something. You got that interview next week. You've been watching videos to see how you're going to answer this question and that question. So let's think about this. You want to buy a few things. So here's a few things that I know for sure I would buy. I would buy one of those teacher toolboxes at the hardware store. Do that. No matter what grade level you teach. And by the way, I don't know if I've mentioned it or not, but I teach third grade. I don't teach high school, but I think a teacher toolbox could be useful for any grade level. And I have a couple of them. I have one at home. I have one in the classroom. The one at home I'm bringing to school because I was using it as my office, right? Because I was teaching from home for a short time. I ended up teaching from my classroom on Zoom, but that's a whole different ballgame. I have one in the classroom that actually is for students to use, so there's only 9 drawers on it. I can show that to you here in a minute. The one I have at home, though, has got, I don't know, probably 48 drawers on it or something, but I love that, and it's all labeled, and I made labels. I think I got some from Teachers Pay Teachers, but ended up making my own because I like having my own. I use, well, real quickly, before I go any further, stick with a font if you can. In a classroom when you're setting up, it's really helpful for kids to stick with some sort of familiar font for them for the big stuff. I've just learned the hard way. If you don't want your classroom looking like it's a hodgepodge of things, do that. And please, oh my gosh, please, do not find a font to use to label things that's got uppercase and lowercase letters randomly. Don't do that, especially if you're a primary teacher, because your kids are going to learn to write wrong. So I'm just telling you right now, I'm not a mentor teacher right now. I don't have a student teacher, but if I did, and I did last year, I made sure to tell her that. I don't train teachers generally. I'm not going to work at college for a few more years, but I'm telling you what, stick with the font that teaches kids how to write well. So anyway, getting back to the teacher toolbox. Label that sucker and use it, and keep it filled up. You'll need all those things, and you'll need them at the ready, and they'll keep you feeling organized on your worst day when you're not feeling very organized. Next to that would be some sort of container for paper for you, not for your students so much, for you. So there's plastic containers with 3 drawers. Get a couple of those, because you'll label one for papers that are needing to be copied, papers to take to the office, for example, and there's white paper. Just something simple and something behind your desk that you can have like that. And buy a few of those if they're on sale, because you'll figure out a way to use those. I've used mine for Writer's Workshop, for example, or Reader's Workshop, or whatever you guys call it wherever you live. Those are good for kids because they're easy drawers, and you can label them and not label them if you want, but it keeps them independent if you can have them for them. Lined paper, white construction paper for illustrating their stories, things like that. Now, a lot of people, and myself included, are using Chromebooks now for kids to write stories, or in Writer's Workshop, which is fine. Third grade, I still feel like it's super important for kids to be using handwriting. So we do a lot of that in my classroom. So anyway, so get those containers. I wouldn't go to the Container Store, sorry. Those places are super expensive. And I also wouldn't buy my plastic containers at the dollar store, getting back to that place. That plastic will not last. You want something pretty solid, so I would buy that probably at either the hardware store or Target, and stick with, I buy Rubbermaid, because that's durable and it lasts a long time. I've raised 3 kids myself, and my husband, sorry, both of us, and we keep, when we buy bins and things like that we're going to want over time, we stick with a brand like Rubbermaid, so sorry about that. So buy a few of those. So that's super helpful. Again, I don't want you spending a ton of money, because if you're a new teacher, you've just finished student teaching, you're probably working another job to support yourself, and Lord knows you've probably taken out student loans, especially if you got a master's degree at the same time, and you know that it's a headache. And all you're thinking about is getting into the classroom. You want to think about how much money you're spending. So you better be really careful about what you're spending it on, right? Get a Cricut. So a Cricut is not an insect in this conversation. It's a system. There's more than one level of Cricut, but they are wonderful. Your school might have a die cutting machine to cut out letters for bulletin boards, and those are kind of going by the wayside anymore. I've actually cut myself on those before. Ugh. But a Cricut will help you with bulletin boards. They'll help you with sticking with the same font like I mentioned a minute ago, and they'll help you put color into what you're putting up and things, especially when you're doing something for open house, for example, or something where other people are going to see your room, and it makes an impression on people about your professionalism and how you feel about your classroom. People notice. Let me just say that. So if you can get a Cricut, even if you have to finance it, they can be pretty pricey. The lowest model, I think, is about probably $300, maybe a little less. I don't know. If you get it on sale at Michael's or at Beverly's or wherever the craft stores where you go, Hobby Lobby, I don't know, wherever you go, get yourself a Cricut. And so again, if you have to pay for it over time, just do it, because it'll pay for itself over time. You'll be glad you have it. And a lot of times you'll end up with it at home and you need it at school. When school's starting, keep it at school. I tried to separate my home from my school life, but this last year with the COVID-19 virus, it was really difficult to separate the two. But as we move closer and closer into school, you new teachers out there, try not to do stuff at home. Try to be home if you have kids, and work at school. Be at home and live at home. So try to keep those materials at school. So I would also get a color printer if you have one. I don't run off colored things for my students to use unless it's a special thing like a cover for a book that they're making. But a color printer is kind of nice to have when you're buying things from Teachers Pay Teachers, for example, and you want to put it in a binder and you want it to look nice. It's just nice to have a color printer. I don't use mine a lot, so I don't have to spend a lot of ton of money on the ink, which, by the way, you should get a subscription to HP for that, for ink. But it's nice to have a color printer at school. Printers aren't that expensive. The ink is. We know this, right? So it'd be nice to have a color printer at school. I have one right here. And in fact, I was making a bulletin board for this book that I'm reading for my summer school class, and I got to make, I had to make a copy of this cover for an anchor chart I'm making. So it's kind of nice to have that. All right, let's see. Moving along. Gotta get a fridge. I like my Diet Coke. I'm trying to wean myself off this summer. But get a refrigerator, and while I'm at it, get a toaster. What? Yeah. It's so comforting to have a toaster at school, in your classroom. I know it sounds silly, but once in a while, on a cold day, you want to make a sandwich that's toasted. It makes you feel so comforted, like you're at home, because you don't have toast at school. But you can if you buy a toaster. I bought mine at their store for about $1. But I have a toaster oven, right? I don't have a microwave, because a microwave we have in the staff room, and a microwave takes a lot of energy, but it makes me go to the staff room once in a while to have a microwave. And if I have a microwave in my classroom, my students think they can warm up their stuff in there, and it just becomes an issue. So I don't have a microwave in my classroom. I do in the staff room, which makes me go talk to my colleagues. Something to think about. But my Diet Coke in my fridge, don't even go there. I have to have that. And my ice cold water. It's also nice to have ice. If you teach science like I do, I teach all subjects, but a refrigerator has a freezer with ice in it, so I use that. So get a refrigerator. They're not that expensive. And don't try to defrost it with a pair of scissors. It was ugly. All right, next, has paper for your bulletin boards. I will tell you real quickly, don't buy anything the school will furnish, okay? Because the school will furnish a lot of stuff. There's a budget for all that stuff. Do not buy the stuff that they'll give you. However, when it comes to bulletin board paper, I would buy it at the teacher store or on Amazon. You can buy all sorts. They have all sorts of things, right? You've seen the fake wood, right? The real, like, brown wood or white wood, and that's neat. And I have some in my classroom. It's kind of trendy right now. They have brick that looks really cool. But that paper is thick and it's reusable. I like doing that. I have the stuff in the office I can get, and it rips easily. But you're constantly putting up paper for different things. It fades easily. And it's expensive for the school, but I use the paper in the office, the butcher paper, to make anchor charts. If I rip off just the right amount. So I use that for that purpose, but a lot of times the paper in my classroom on the bulletin boards, except the one behind me here, that's just for summer school, 5 short weeks. But I use that, and I also use fabric. There's a couple other teachers on YouTube who use fabric. That's awesome. Fabric's a great bulletin board cover if you get the kind that's polyester, that stretches, instead of cotton that doesn't stretch, and it's a pain. So if you want to do that, that's a great idea. That won't fade. It's a little more pricey than paper, but in the long run it's not, because you're not replacing it. And buy multicolors for you. I wouldn't buy pattern for fabric, but that's just me. So get your own bulletin board paper. That's sage advice there. Okay, so as a teacher, congratulations, by the way. When you go on vacation now, it's a different experience, because when you're shopping on vacation, it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to gravitate towards stuff you can use in your classroom. I know, right? It's a sickness. So you'll find kids' books everywhere, and you'll buy them, and you should. And I like buying picture books that are hard, but if you find paperback versions of them, buy those too, because they'll just add to your library. Books are one of those things that you just can never have enough of. Now, I've learned this whole last year when we were teaching online that I can get a lot of books off of YouTube and show videos. There's something so organic and tangible as having the book. Oh, sorry, my glasses. Having the book you can feel and touch and show and refer back to when you're having a discussion, especially with small groups. Or the kids can revisit the book when you're working on an assignment. So buy as many books as you can find, and try to buy them on sale and put them on your wish list on Amazon. And people will buy them for you. They're wonderful. I've got probably 400 of these books, all told. I can count them right now. Probably 400, 500. But I've taught all grades. And it doesn't matter if you're teaching 5th or 6th grade. Kids still like being read to. You know who you are. So, doesn't matter. Buy kids' books whenever you see them. A lot of paperback books that are chapter books and things like that, or read aloud books, you'll find those at different places, garage sales, and you'll find them at the thrift stores and things. Those are great. I have about 10 books that I use for read aloud for third grade, but every time I've switched grade levels, there's a new read aloud book for that grade level, several, and you have to check with other teachers. Do not do a read aloud chapter book for a book that they read in a different grade level. Talk to your colleagues about that. You know what I'm saying? Wonders for 5th grade. That's a good example. By the Great Horn Spoon, 4th grade, right? Come on, people. Wild Robot, it's 3rd grade, so don't even go there. Okay, we've reserved the rights to The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, and Because of Winn-Dixie. Kate DiCamillo is a 3rd grade love, but there's a ton out there, so I could give you that's a whole nother video of read alouds for different grade levels, but just consider that. And by the way, if you're teaching 5th grade, oh my gosh, Christopher Paul Curtis, oh wow, he's an absolutely wonderful author for historical fiction, so just remember that name, Christopher Paul Curtis. He wrote Bud Not Buddy, which is actually a 6th grade book, but really great one. All right, so okay, so this is going to sound so old, but do this. Buy Mad Libs. You can get them online and things like that, but buy a Mad Libs book. Buy several of them. Kids love them. If you see them on Scholastic in the book orders, buy them. Hoard those and give them away for kids for Christmas. Mad Libs are a great way to teach grammar to kids, and they think they're having fun. It's an old-fashioned thing that I've done. I found a Mad Libs that my husband and his brother did on a car trip across the United States when he was 12. He's 55 now. So funny to see his vocabulary when he was 10. Oh my gosh. Buy Mad Libs. You won't regret it. With that though, you'll need to do is I have 4 charts, and I've used, again, same font, typewriter font. And those 4 charts have verbs, nouns, adverbs, and adjectives. Nice and big. So those are hanging in my room. When we do Mad Libs, I get those 4 charts out. I put them on my clothesline here. I have clothespins. And they use those charts for Mad Libs. And I tell you what, great independent work. And then they want to share it with the class when they're done. So it's really fun. The directions are all there, but if you've never done Mad Libs, crawl out of your cave. Mad Libs are the best. So buy Mad Libs if you can. Again, you can get them online and things like that, but it's so fun to have the book, because the book on the back of them has what the kids are supposed to fill in, and you just give the kids whiteboards. They do not write in the books, by the way. Don't let the kids write in the Mad Libs book. Give them a whiteboard and use that. So that's my advice to you. This next one's really weird, but if you can, and you see them for sale, buy lamps. I love lamps in my classroom. I have like lights behind me here on my bulletin board, but I like lamps. In my small group area, I have lamps. I have a lot of natural light in my classroom, but I love having lamps. Fluorescent lights. If I won the lottery, somebody asked me this about 5 years ago, what would I do with the money? One thing I would do is I would outfit my entire school with no fluorescent lights, but everything else but fluorescent lights. I can't stand them. I hate the way they make me feel. I hate the way kids feel after being in the classroom all day with them. Natural lighting is the way to go. So if you can find some lamps, use lamps. So they're the best. They make you feel more homey at school, and if you can lower that effective filter for kids as far as them getting information and learning and feeling like they want to be in your classroom and learn. You know, kids don't always remember the things they do or the books you read, but they always remember how you made them feel, right? Or how they felt with you or with your classroom or with each other. So that's huge. I think that's it. The other thing I was thinking about as far as like materials and things like that go, I love having mailboxes. Those are a great way to organize things, and I've started labeling them just with numbers instead of names. I do like labeling everything with names because it's easier for kids that are new to 3rd grade. They're coming from 2nd grade. They're 7 years old sometimes. But if a number system saves you so much time. And I don't know about you, but I organize my classroom by kids' first names. I know the office sends me everything by their last names, but our school is really different here I'm teaching Northern California in Sacramento, and our school, this is going to floor you. The kids call me Heidi. That's my name. They don't call me Mrs. Witter. They call me Heidi. So I call them by their first names. So all my lists for kids are first name alphabetized. And so for when I have older kids, we have a K-8 school. So when I have 7th and 8th grade students come in to help, because that's one of their classes, they can file easily, but because they know a lot of the kids after having worked with them, they don't know their last names, and they can help me file papers. So if you can get mailboxes, do that. A lot of times a classroom will have them, but sometimes they're really cheap. That's a good investment. Save all your receipts. Even if your school doesn't reimburse you, you can, depending on what state you live in, sometimes you can write those off on your taxes. So if you buy anything expensive, even your Cricut, save your receipts. Do that. I didn't mention a few other things, but you know, your classroom is your own. You have to make it your happy place. So you'll find things at Bath and Body Works. You'll buy candles, and you can light those when the kids aren't around, because most schools don't let you start a fire. But there's little niceties you'll find that you love in your classroom that make it your happy place. But just remember, you have to be in that classroom too. It's not just for the kids. That's all. So there's your advice. I hope everything goes well in your classroom setup. So more to come on that, right? My classroom's already set up, but I always reset it up before school starts. You guys have a great day out there.